Hello, YouTube. It is time for another segment of Ed's Flicks, and today we're going to be discussing horror and sci-fi TV shows, old and new. We're going to do them in categories. So right after this little intermission, we'll be back, and then we're going to dig right in. Hello, YouTube. Today we're doing another episode of Ed's Flicks, and this one is going to be called TV Horror and Sci-Fi, the best of. So, we're going to start right out with the classics, because those are the best ones in my opinion. So, first we'll do a couple of sci-fi. They're good, but they're not really horror, but they are sci-fi. The one is, it's a TV show called The Invaders. And The Invaders basically was created by Quinn Martin, who is basically known for doing detective shows like Cannon and Barnaby Jones and all that, and Streets of San Francisco. But he decided to take a step into the sci-fi genre, and it only lasted 2 seasons, but it involved Roy Thinnis, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, and he was an architect, and he ended up witnessing a spaceship landing, and basically, it's 2 seasons of him going around trying to prove that the aliens exist, and and along the way he makes some, he ends up getting some allies. It's basically kind of like The Fugitive, only sci-fi, but it's still a good show. So The Invaders. Now that's one really good sci-fi. The other one is a classic for sure, and that is the original black and white Outer Limits. Now, they are pretty good, but they're an hour TV show. They are pretty good, but they do get kind of way out there. But it is a good classic sci-fi show. A lot of it involves aliens and stuff, but it is good. So that's all well, then there's also honorable mentions, kind of like Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Land of the Giants, and The Time Tunnel. All of those are Irwin Allen productions, and they're good. Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea had pretty much a monster of the week there for quite a while, but they got kind of far out there toward the end. But Land of the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea was 4 seasons. Land of the Giants was 2 seasons. The Time Tunnel was 1 season, and Lost in Space was 3 seasons, I do believe. So there's my honorable mentions, for the classic sci-fi. Now, when we get into the horror, though, there's quite a few, and of course, we got to start out with of course, the original black and white 5 seasons of The Twilight Zone. Rod Serling's Twilight Zone. Now, the first 3 seasons were half-hour shows. The 4th season, I guess it tried to compete with Outer Limits, and they went to hour shows, and they kind of started not being quite as good. So on season 5, then they went back to half-hour shows again. So they have a lot of really good episodes. Some of them are kind of but most of them are really good. One of my favorites, and I really don't know the name of the episodes. I can just give you the synopsis. The one where it has William Shatner in it. Of course, all of you know William Shatner is Captain Kirk. I guess that's another honorable sci-fi show I should have mentioned, the original Star Trek series. Anyway, it has William Shatner, and he's kind of out there, I guess. I guess he's had mental problems, but he keeps seeing this creature on the plane, on the wing of the plane, and that one's a really good series and a good episode. And the other one that I really like is, I think it's called Time Enough or something like that. But that's a really good series where this guy, he likes to read, but his nagging wife won't let him read, and he just loves to read. And he keeps wishing that he just had more time to read. And so he would, he got his wish. He was down in the bank vault, because he worked in a bank. And he was down in the bank vault, and there was an atomic explosion, and of course the whole world was wiped out. And first he was pretty bummed, and then all of a sudden he started finding all his books, and he thought, wow, I can have all this time to read, and no one to tell me I can't. And he was going to be in seventh heaven. Well, I won't give it away, but something happened, and he wasn't able to read. He was still alive. He didn't die. He probably wished he had. But, so, there's a lot of really good episodes of The Twilight Zone. It's definitely worth watching. Sometimes you can catch them on Sci-Fi. Sometimes but I own them, so I just watch them whenever I want. Now, another classic horror TV series is Dark Shadows. Technically, Dark Shadows was an afternoon soap opera, but it was a really good. I personally think, now a lot of people would probably disagree with this, but there's actually two parts. There's one called Dark Shadows: The Beginning, and then there's one just called Dark Shadows. And Dark Shadows: The Beginning, it had a real eerie feel to it, and there toward the end of Dark Shadows: The Beginning, which was only so many episodes, because it almost got canceled, and they started getting into the supernatural stuff, like ghosts and stuff. And as soon as they did that, well, the ratings started picking up. So then, when they get to the regular Dark Shadows, I think it's like episode 210 or something like that. That's when they introduced the vampire, Barnabas Collins. And when he came to the show, it really took off. And, they had all kinds of interesting storylines, parallel time, going back in time. They had all different kinds. They pretty much hit all the famous monsters. They had a witch. Her name was Angelique. She was quite sexy. Then, of course, the vampire, Barnabas Collins. They touched on Frankenstein, because they had a character that they brought back to life, and his name was Adam. And that's basically like Frankenstein's monster. He was body parts, and they brought him back. And then they also had a werewolf. Like I said, they had time travel, and it was a good show. It got kind of really weird, got kind of boring in some spots, but yeah, they touched on a lot of the famous monsters. I don't think they ever had a mummy that I can recall, and I don't think they ever had the Invisible Man, but they did, and they definitely didn't have Creature from the Black Lagoon. So, Anyway, enough about Dark Shadows. It's a long series, but it's like 2,000 some episodes long. Of course, they were only half-hour shows, and it was a soap opera, so that's why there's so many episodes. Another really good classic horror, of course, is Night Gallery, which is basically, a Rod Serling production. And it was basically kind of like a 1970s version of The Twilight Zone. Had little short stories and stuff. And I think it lasted, I think it lasted 2 or 3 seasons. I really can't remember for sure. But I have them. I just can't remember how many seasons. So there's Night Gallery. Then they also had Kolchak the Night Stalker. And that was a really good show. Kolchak, even though it only lasted 1 season, he was a reporter, Carl Kolchak, and every week he would investigate, different monsters. It had Jack the Ripper, and it had the vampire, and it had a werewolf. And, it just had a headless motorcyclist. But it was a good show, and they took it off because they said it was too scary for people to watch. I don't know. Anyway, it was a good show. So then there was Kolchak. Then there was also a great TV series that I absolutely love. It only lasted 1 season, but it went through 2 name changes. It started out as Ghost Story. Halfway through, for some reason, they changed the name to Circle of Fear. So, that one is, definitely a good series, and it's definitely worth checking out. And that's Circle of Fear, or Ghost Story. And I think that's pretty much it for a lot of the classics that I could think of. Of course, they had like Alfred Hitchcock. I like the Alfred Hitchcock shows. Those are more suspense, but they're still kind of, neat to watch. So there you go. There is the classics, and I hope I really didn't miss any. I don't think I did, but let's just hope not. And if I did, I apologize. I'll circle back on it if I do. Oh, I hate that phrase. So, okay. There's the classics. There is one thing I did forget on the 80s. During came out in 1980. It was called Hammer House of Horror. And that was basically, a British TV series. It only lasted 1 season, but it was good. It was kind of like a mix of Circle of Fear, kind of like that. So, where they had different stories every week. So, there we go. That was Hammer House of Horrors. So now we're going to get into, as I like to call them, the modern day horror TV series. And we're going to start out with Dark Shadows again. Came out in the 90s, and it was Dark Shadows, and it was called Dark Shadows the Revival series. And of course, it didn't have any of the same people playing, the characters from the original, but Dan Curtis, who did the original Dark Shadows, did the Dark Shadows Revival, and so it was good, but it was just kind of weird seeing a different Barnabas and, and a different Elizabeth Stoddard and, and all that, different Willie Loomis, but it was, it was good, but unfortunately it just didn't really seem to kick on, and they only had like 13 episodes, and then it went off the air. So, there was Dark Shadows, the Revival series. Now, the next show we're going to tackle as far as modern day horror, and that is The X-Files. The X-Files. Yes, we are not alone. So, and that is Mulder and Scully. I hope I said that right. And of course, one of them believes, the other one is a skeptic. The woman is a skeptic, and the man is the one who believes that we are not alone. And that lasted, oh man, I think it was like 11 seasons, and that's including when they rebooted it and brought it back in, I think it was like 2018. Because X-Files was on for, I think it was on for like 9 or 10 seasons, and then it finally went off. They made a couple of movies, and then they brought it back, and it just wasn't the same. The original X-Files is awesome. You know, they have a monster of the week too, but, you know, it also involves Mulder. You know, he's trying to prove that the aliens do exist. So there's the X-Files. So we covered the X-Files and we covered Dark Shadows. Next, we're going to tackle probably, I think it's the longest running TV series that's, you know, horror. And that is the TV show Supernatural. And it involves two brothers. You know, they start out by trying to find the demon that killed their mom, and then eventually ended up killing Sam Winchester's girlfriend, same way that, you know, his mom died. And I'm pretty sure most everybody out here has seen Supernatural, but if you haven't, I recommend you find it and get it and watch it, because it's really good. The soundtrack to the series is great. You know, Dean, he has that that classic car. I wish I could remember what it was. Impala. It was an Impala. And he always played classic rock. You know, that's one thing that really made the show, was the classic rock. Maybe cruising along listening to Bad Company or something. And then they actually even had an episode where they paid homage to the Universal Studios monsters. You know, they did it in black and white, and, you know, it was a really good episode. And then the other thing that they did, I thought I would never see, is that they had a crossover. They actually went animated and hooked up with Scooby-Doo and the gang and to solve a mystery. So, but Supernatural had all kinds of really good, you know, characters. Some of them lived, a lot of them ended up biting the bullet or whatever. But Supernatural is indeed a really good series. So if you've never seen it, I recommend that you get it and watch it, because it is good. But I'm pretty sure most everybody out there has already seen Supernatural. So the next show we're going to get into is Sleepy Hollow. And Sleepy Hollow, it is based upon Ichabod Crane. In fact, that's the name of the main character. He somehow gets transported from his time to modern time. It's kind of neat watching him trying to figure out how to use all these newer gadgets and stuff. But, you know, he comes up to fight the forces of evil. And so it's a good show. I recommend, if you've never seen Sleepy Hollow, watch it. The next show is Bates Motel. Obviously, if you're any kind of horror fan, you know what that's from. It involved Norman Bates when he was younger, and, you know, living in the Bates Motel and stuff. And it basically shows how he became so twisted. So, it's a good show. I think it lasted like 3 or 4 seasons, maybe 5, I'm not sure. But, yeah, it's not too bad of a show either. So, I recommend that you watch Bates Motel. Now, the one that I'll mention, but it just never grabbed me. But I'll mention it because there's probably some people out there that like it. And that was the TV series Stranger Things. You know, that was on Netflix, which I don't have. But I'm just not a big fan of Stranger Things. So I mean, but I guess if you like the newer ones, especially if you've never seen it, then you can watch Stranger Things. So okay, well I think that's about all the newer ones that I want to mention. I do believe. I don't think that there are. Oh, can't forget this one. Can't forget this one. HBO started out, and this came out back, in the very late '80s, or '90s, and it was Tales from the Crypt. You can't. I love Tales from the Crypt, and the Crypt Keeper. So, that one you can. Like if you don't own it, I know you can still find the DVDs on Amazon and stuff. So that was one of the very first series that HBO did, I think. That and there was another one, which I never really watched. I never got the opportunity, but it's called The Hitchhiker. I don't know if that's supposed to be creepy or not, so I'm not going to mention it. And then the other couple more that I'll mention, and then that'll be all the modern horror TV shows. One is Ash versus Evil Dead, and I own those. Those are good. If you've seen the Evil Dead series, it stays true to form. It's even got Bruce Campbell in it, plays Ash, and it lasted 3 seasons. I think it quit after 3. And they even had Lee Majors, the $6 Million Man. He appeared on it for at least season 2. So then there's that one. And then I think that might be it. Tales from the Crypt and Ash vs. Evil Dead. So yeah, those I recommend, especially Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Crypt is really good. All right. Okay, this will be kind of a short one because basically now we're going to kind of get into, I call it my franchise section. And there's only like a couple that I really want to mention. One was the TV series Friday the 13th. Now it did not have Jason in it. So if you're hoping to, wow, they made a TV series about Jason, no. This is basically kind of like a Twilight Zone type thing, like where they have different things happening throughout each episode. So it doesn't have Jason, but it deserves a good watch. So maybe you'll like it. I do. And then the other franchise, as I call it, that I really like is a TV series called Freddy's Nightmares, A Nightmare on Elm Street, this series. Now that one does have Freddy. Freddy hosts it. He's kind of like Rod Serling during the Twilight Zone. He'll host it, and then once in a while, on some of the episodes, he will appear in the series. Like the very first one, the pilot, basically was about Freddy, how he became, the way he is, dead and burnt. Crispy fried Freddy. So yeah, those are 2 franchise classics that I would like to consider. And when I say, when I was talking about classics, I meant basically like, the 70s on back. So there we go. So that's why I didn't put these in there, because these were made basically in the 80s, late 80s, I think. Now Freddy's Nightmares only lasted 2 seasons, and I think Friday the 13th was like 4 or 5 seasons. And then they also had the new Outer Limits, and they had the new Twilight Zone. They brought them back, but they just really don't have the the same effect as the originals. So there you go. I'll be right back after this. Okay, now the last part of the horror TV shows that we're going to touch on are mini-series. Because they had some really good horror TV miniseries. And we'll start out with probably the one that started it all. And that is, they did a Stephen King Salem's Lot. And it stars David Soul. Came out in very late 70s, 1980, somewhere around there. Of course, they're going to be remaking that this, I think it comes out this year, which I don't know if I'm going to, it's either this year or next year. Not sure if I'll like that or not. But it was, Salem's Lot is really good. It's very creepy. And, as many times as I've seen Salem's Lot, it still makes me jump on certain parts. Even though I know it's coming, it still makes me jump. So yeah, Salem's Lot for sure. That is a must-see TV miniseries, and that was only in 2 parts. Some of them were 2 parts, some of them are 3, some of them are even more. But so there's Salem's Lot. Now we'll keep up with Stephen King because he did some other great TV miniseries. One was the original It, with the evil clown. That was in 2 parts. And so if you've seen the new one, maybe you ought to go back. If you've never seen the original, go back and watch the original It. I highly recommend it. It is really good. Now, Stephen King did have quite a few miniseries. Another one he did was basically when they did The Shining. That's based upon a Stephen King novel, and the movie had Jack Nicholson. Well, this is the TV miniseries. Now, the movie left a lot out that was in the book, which was kind of disappointing. But they had to do what they did. But the TV miniseries has, and I wish I could remember his name. He played Brian on Wings. He didn't make quite as good a Jack as as Jack Nicholson did, but he did a good job. But the TV miniseries was really creepy, and it was a 3-part, and it pretty much did go along with the book. So, and that was a 3-parter. Then they've had some, they had one called Creature, which was basically a 2-part miniseries about a giant octopus. And so, that's called The Beast. And it was pretty good. It was only a 2-parter. And I don't know why I skipped the other Stephen King. I don't know how I could have skipped this one, but we're going to go back to it. And that is Stephen King, The Stand. I'm not talking about that new remake that they did. No. This is the original. And it was let me see, I think it was, 4 parts. And it, because I remember when it first came out on video, I went and rented it, all 4. It was on VHS then. But I went and rented it, and I said, okay, I got it for 3 days, so I'll just watch, one tape tonight, maybe another. I ended up watching the whole 6-hour miniseries that night. I stayed up all night and watched it. It's that good. So I would definitely recommend watching The Stand, the original. So I would definitely recommend watching that. Now they had some other horror miniseries. One of them was called House of Frankenstein, and it actually does have Frankenstein in it, and also has werewolves and vampires. Doesn't have the creature though, but that's okay. But it lasted 2. It was 2-parter. But that one's really hard to find. It really is. You might be able to find it on YouTube or something, but maybe if you type in like House of Frankenstein TV miniseries or something, maybe you can find it. Not really sure. But that one was really good. Then they had Peter Benchley. Oh, he also was the one that did, well, I know he did Jaws, but he also did that movie, The Beast. And then he also did this one called Creature, which was, oh, it was okay. It wasn't too bad. So, it was about a man turning into some sort of creature. It's been a while since I've seen it, but, you know, it might be out there. Oh, and another notable Stephen King is Tommyknockers. You know, you can't forget Tommyknockers. Now, that was creepy. There were just parts of that really, you know, creeps me out. So I would recommend Tommyknockers by Stephen King. You know, and Stephen King's always known to have this green ambiance or whatever. I don't know, but a lot of stuff in there was green. So that is not my phone. That is my clock, and it is now 3 p.m. So every day at 3, psycho. But so yeah, Tommyknockers, and you know, he's had some other ones like Kingdom Hospital and stuff. You know, stuff like that was okay. Rose Red. You know, that one was, you know, kind of like a haunted house type thing. So Rose Red. But, yeah, I think that's about all that I'm going to mention with the Stephen King. And now there's one more miniseries. And technically it was kind of a sci-fi action, but it was also had some good creepy parts in it. And it was called, oh, let me think here. Boy, oh boy. You know, this is going to really upset me if I can't remember the name of, oh, Taken. Jeez. Taken. And it's not the action series. This Taken is, I'm trying to think of even, I think it's like 10 parts to it. And it goes throughout generations, and it's about aliens coming to Earth. And it, you know, and how it affects generation after generation. So I would really recommend watching. Steven Spielberg did that one, and that one was, you know, a really good series. It's something you could watch during the winter time. So there we go. I think that's going to pretty much be it for the mini series. Not that no more that I can think of. Well, Stephen King did have, you know, like, Golden Years, which was basically, you know, about people in a nursing home. So, there you go. But anyway, I guess that'll be it for the mini-series. I hope I didn't miss any. Alright, everybody. If you did like the contents of this video, or like some of the other content on my YouTube page, please remember to leave a comment down below. Please keep it respectful. I hate to have YouTube, you know, see YouTube block you. Sometimes they do stuff like that, which is kind of nice, because I try to keep my page as family friendly as possible. And stuff I have on here that's not family friendly, then of course I'll let them know. But so please, you know, leave a comment below. And if you like this video, then remember to hit that like button so you can show that you liked it. And then, if you like what you see on my page, then subscribe to my YouTube page. All subscriptions are appreciated, and I'm just trying to build up my little YouTube page, so all subscriptions are appreciated. And then remember to share my video if you think it's worth sharing, which I hope you do. But remember to share my video Share it on Facebook, whatever social media app you so choose. That way the word will get out and maybe more people will see it. And then, for the very last thing, there's a little notification bell over there on the right. Bash that notification bell so that way whenever I go to upload YouTube videos, YouTube will be informed. And you'll say, okay, well, he's uploaded another video. Let's go see what it's all about. So remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, and bash that little notification bell. All right, everybody. Have a great day.